Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the scene of Living World of Darkness Rage across New York. And today we start the scene with Rob and Clay, who probably like at the end of the morning after like these training things that she's still not quite used to. So with sore muscles and like feeling like well, basically like shit. She probably also kind of looks like shit. Um, But at least with like a hot cup of coffee, as she finally has found some kinfolk who are willing to like give this poor, usually half frozen cub a cup of coffee to warm herself up after like going through training hell. Um, so with the cup in hand, she is going to actually do what she was supposed to do yesterday, but didn't really get around to do it anymore, and is gonna look for 10 points. Usually Robin has met her at the Rock, and it's there that she will actually like wander to first because yeah, this keeper kind of stands out, and but still like walking around through the entire sept hardly seems like the right way to find someone. So yeah, she's just gonna first glance at where she usually saw her, which is the Rock.
And there will be just a long enough pause as she comes to the rock and glances around, maybe even backs up to look up on top of it, that she thinks, shit, I missed her. But after just long enough to start glancing around and thinking, where should I look next? Will be about when 10 Point comes into view, probably in the midst of a sidestep. Fairly nearby, not close enough to be like horribly jarring, but she wasn't there, and suddenly she just kind of flickers in.
Yeah, that's something that like Robin is slowly starting to get used to, but it's not that often that see people step into the world from like seemingly nothing, even though you know the theory behind it. So she looks surprised. Like the coffee probably jolts a little bit over her fingers, and she um she looks at 10 point and just puts the coffee cup on the ground and yeah, lowers herself to it as well. She does make sure that she's away far enough from the coffee so that she wouldn't actually accidentally like trip it over or something, because that's a waste of coffee.
For what it's worth, 10 Point, of course, initially comes out glancing at an open compact in her hand, which she'll click shut, glancing up immediately after, as though well aware that Robin's there, regardless of how normally one can't see between the two. And as she like gets down and starts to set the coffee on the ground and hunker down herself, there'll be a vague, dismissive gesture. You don't have to go so far for me, Robin Andre.
Oh, um, yeah.
A tip of the
So
chin is
sorry.
enough.
Yeah, she'll do the next best thing, which is lifting up her chin.
There'll be a
Probably still seated half on the ground, like oh, let's do this first real quick, and then
There will be a vaguely amused look and a nod of approval, and she kind of flicks her gaze away in a fashion that pretty readily conveys, okay, that was good enough for her. On to the next thing. So it gives her a chance to get herself back up, unless she's especially anxious and wants to just hunker down there until she's given a more overt gesture.
no, she can see the point, and that's like she's seen enough different ways of in which the guru prefer to be greeted. Um, so she'll just carefully pick up the coffee cup again, um, and we'll get up. And she is hesitantly, like clearly hesitantly, even though you know, but she offers the coffee to 10 points.
And so 10 Point essentially has glanced away and has moved a step or two just to look to the board, glancing for any new little cards that have been popped up on it. And there, of course, are none. And so when she glances back, the coffee's being offered out, and she tilts her head faintly in surprise. Not a, not like shock, just kind of amused, surprised, really.
Would you like coffee, 10 Point Raya?
And she'll tuck her hand into the swag, and will briefly pull out and then tuck back away an insulated travel mug. Don't worry, Andre, I have my own. But thank you for the offer.
And her hands kind of immediately wrap around the coffee cup again because, oh, it's nice and warm.
She always seems so cold. 10 Point doesn't want to take away her little warm thing. Truth be told, let's look and see if it's snowing there too. Just
God, I hope not.
let's see. Not San Diego, New York, New York. No, it's not yet. It's probably quite chilly though, so her holding onto the cub or the cup the way she is pretty standard fare.
Yeah.
10 Point is probably layered with a good bit more clothing and at least one good heavy jacket. Is there something I can do for you, Henri?
Actually, yeah, I was hoping, if I'm not interrupting you or anything, to I wanted to ask you something and then maybe something else, but that's like not really much of a hurry, so that can wait for whenever it's convenient.
Is the coffee cup just a generalized coffee mug, or does it have a lid?
It's probably just generalized, yeah.
So 10 Point will, comically enough, instead of trying to invite her up onto the rock, will kind of do that thing where you hoist yourself up a certain amount, just enough to reach the top, like stepping up onto a lower shelf to reach a higher one, essentially with the rock. She props a foot on there, and she is, bless her heart, still stubbornly barefoot at the moment. So she braces a foot on the side of the rock, reaches a hand up, gets just the right grip, and reaches up until she snags a hold of one of the blankets that's been folded up there for people to sit and lounge on, and we'll tug it down, and we'll very carefully step through the flowers and whatnot that have been both planted and naturally grown around the rock, and then we'll plop it onto the grass because, even a small bit of insulation is something. And we'll beckon the cub over while sitting herself down. We'll even go so far as to give the blanket a light pat and invitation.
Yeah, Robin sits down, kind of grateful, happy smile on her face.
I always have
Um,
time for the cubs.
Thank you, 10 Point Raya. Actually, the first thing was something that Wormfowl came up with, that he thought you could help with.
There's a very brief little thoughtfully inquisitive expression. It just kind of flits across her face. So she schools it back to something calm just after. It's not like a horrible expression. It's just like, oh really? What is that, Andre?
It's about my friend Vivian. Um, I told him, like, I mean, I heard it was kind of normal that when you go through your first change, you can't really remember much of it.
It is.
So he was saying that, well, I mean, we were talking about this because he asked if I knew anything more than I told him before about what happened there and about Vivian. And I said that I didn't know because I really couldn't remember after I got like very angry. And he said that it might be something that you could help with as a theurge to basically clear up those memories somewhat.
And she gives her brow a thoughtful little knit. And actually, leans forward, plops her elbow on her knee and starts kind of rubbing lightly at her chin, just thoughtfully, musing. You are not the only one who has things they need to remember. would be simple enough to call once and to see if I could aid you both at the same time.
Oh,
Chimera is a spirit of knowledge, of enigmas, but also of memory. He knows the unknown. And while he is no longer a patron to our sept, there are still chimerlings that linger that we could try to appease and try to call to. What I want you to do, if you wish to do this, is to consider what you could offer them in exchange for them doing you this favor. All gifts, all deeds, all favors done by spirits must be repaid.
yeah, 2 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So,
Um,
in exchange for restoring a lost memory or letting you see it again, you need to be able to offer them something that will appeal to them. Whether it is a memory, whether it is a secret, whether it is some puzzle that might be a challenge for them, or some puzzle that you have unwound and learned from in the past.
so that is something that Chimera likes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Keep in mind that if you forfeit a memory, you may very legitimately forfeit it entirely. It is something of an extreme chiminage. But with some creative thought, you could very well offer something that they will cherish very much and will get you better results.
Hmm. I'll I'll think about this. There's nothing that immediately pops in my head like that's for like a good idea or something, but yeah, I'll give it some thought. I'll come up with something.
Sharing moments of revelation, sharing dreams that you've had that offered you insight to your actual life, even, would suit them very nicely. They also attribute themselves to dreams.
Okay.
So put some thought into it. If what you think of is not enough, I will help you. You are just a cub.
I'll I'll come up with the list and I'll send it your way so you can evaluate it.
You could also probably go and speak to Helena about it. It'll give her a chance to put some thought into such things. She's she has a very good instinct when it comes to chiminage and to appeasing various spirits. I'm sure she would be happy to advise you.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that, but she seems to be very busy usually, so we don't speak a
She
lot.
she keeps herself very busy and very away, but I think today, and she'll glance around, I think today you might be able to catch her. She'll probably come by the rock before too long.
Okay.
And it helps her learn what she is meant to do, and it gives you a good starting place to do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. I would like to, I mean, if I can help her that way, that is important, right? That's what we cops need to do. Help each
Hmm.
other.
You'll help each other learn, you'll help each other grow, hopefully. And once you make Cleith, it helps to have the bonds that you'll forge while you're still young and while you're still fresh. It helps to know people, to know what they're capable of, and to have good rapport with them, so that even if you are in different packs and on different missions, you know enough to help each other. In a way, regardless of how many packs there may be on this sept, we are in turn almost like one large sectioned pack.
Yeah, it's a bit, I wouldn't say confusing, but the structure and the hierarchy in this place, it takes some time getting used to.
She adopts a very amused smile, an almost maternally amused smile. I've found that it's the Hamid cubs that have the most difficulty adjusting. It may be strange and it may be different, but once you've wrapped your head around it, it makes perfect sense.
It's
Due
just,
diligence is paid to those who have lived the longest and accomplished the most.
yeah, no, that part makes sense, but it's just that there's that, and then there is the ranking system, because some of the Cleats even have been Cleats for longer than some of the Foster are even around. So it doesn't really go up the way you say it. And then there's the packs, and they have a structure which you have to respect. And then there are the sub positions. So there's a very layered sense of hierarchy that, you
It
know,
is.
maybe I'm just overthinking it,
It can
but
be complicated. It can be very
yeah,
complicated if you consider that I am older than many of the Cleiths and Fosterns, even the Adrians on Sept. But I was a Cleith for a very long time. And Jason, having joined my pack, I will call him Raya, because I am still Omega, even if I outrank him in the general scheme of things and have a position of my own.
you would call him Mariah, but
What is
aren't you a
important to me?
Foster?
I am. But to me, the pack structure is very important. And it's very important to make him and help him understand that at least within the confines of our pack, he outranks me. And I'm still the Omega,
Hmm,
whatever else I may be.
right.
I would not have invited him. I would not have encouraged my Rayas to invite him if I did not consider him someone that I could call Raya. He's very sensible, even if he is young and new.
I I think I sort of understand, but when you're like in a public place, you would still call him Mariah, right?
I would choose to. Most would not. Then again, no other pack has an Omega.
I don't think the other packs are like big enough to have that.
There is also a very poor understanding of an Omega's duties on the Sept, and there are very few who would be willing to be called Omega.
I think that's very much a Hamid thing. A lot of us in like, at least in this society, because I think it's different in other places of the world, but humans are taught that you need to be something and you need to, you know, be the best, be the greatest, be the wisest, be the fastest, be the strongest, all that. And to not be that and to choose to not be that, I think is something that a lot of humans, so Hamid, would find difficult. I would find it difficult as well to do that.
And she's even got her eyes kind of glinting a bit as she taps the side of her nose. Just so. It is very hard to understand how important the position is and the service that it provides. Not
So,
many would choose to be an Omega, but were I not a member of my pack would have floundered.
so what are your tasks and duties as such?
The Omega of a pack steadies and balances their pack mates. When my pack mates are riddled with rage, I take them aside, and in whatever way works the best, I do my best to rid them of their rage. Most Omega are ragabashes, and they'll poke fun and they'll drive until they can provoke the person to give an outlet to their rage. Some will look to put them in a better state of mind and a better mood so that it bleeds off. But balancing that rage means that my packmate can now interact with the rest of the pack and the rest of the sept and the rest of society with a clear mind.
Hmm.
We settle things, we keep the peace, each in our own way.
So you're basically like your pack's therapist.
And she ponders that a bit, and then shrugs. Essentially, I suppose. I keep them in a state of mind that allows them to face each mission, face each interaction, face each day solidly on their own 2 feet, whether it is providing comfort, providing a fight, providing whatever must be necessary to get them to a place where they can think clearly.
And what about yourself in that regard then? Do they help you, or do you have your own way of coping?
I have my own way, but my pack takes very good care of me. They appreciate what I do, they respect what I do, and they recognize that I have a place.
Well, what I mean is, what if your rage becomes too high? I think, especially as a theurge and a keeper, you would need a clear head as well, right?
As a Theurge, it is very rare that my rage becomes an issue, and when it does, I am also usually provoked into taking a run, going to the training grounds, doing whatever I need to. I can self manage fairly well. I've been a guru a very long time. She smiles again. Because let's face it, 10 Point is, what, 31 now? And has always been Guru. It's
Yeah.
easy to forget, but I have never been human. I've never been a wolf. I have always been Guru.
Wait, she's 31 in like Medici? Never mind.
I
What?
don't know how
No.
the conversion works. Essentially, physically, appearance wise, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
She is significantly older than one might expect. I imagine,
Mhm.
however it translates, she's still pretty fucking old.
Yeah. That was, by the way, completely an out of character thing because Robin doesn't know about like the
Yeah.
growth rate of medicine. Yeah, no, never mind.
Either way, she does look significantly older than most of the active characters. I think the only thing older
Yeah.
than 10 pointer NPCs.
Yeah, most likely.
But either way, even if she seemed the same age, it still makes the point, I've never been human.
Mm. Yeah, that is quite interesting actually. I mean, I I know what basically happened that results in a medis, but it's still the idea of not being able to love someone that you love, and it's kind of interesting. But yeah,
It is hard.
actually, I did have another question regarding your job as an Omega. If I'm not like if in any way I am insulting you by asking questions, please let me know.
No. And for what it's worth, 10 Point, even fully clothed, she does still have a scar line across her face that's kind of a healed welt, but it was inflicted by Silver, and she has a more like a clean line of a very small cut down one side of her lips. It doesn't look like a wild slash or something. It looks like something that was very purposefully, very short and very like consciously controlled.
Hmm. So, would you say your experience as a Garu and as a Fianna that a tribe like the Fianna, where uh, passion, emotion, and living in the moment are so important, do you think that they have more need for something like an Omega than possibly some of the other tribes?
She tilts her head thoughtfully on that and actually leans back a bit, mulling over it. We are a passionate people, yes. But as much as we are passionate, the Get Offenders can be brutal. As much as we are passionate, I feel like sometimes the Silver Fangs are too concerned with their image. Whatever one's crutch may be, it's important to remind them not to use the crutch and to stand on their own 2 feet, not to be distracted. We are not the only tribe who keep Omegas. Far from. This is the first sept I have ever heard of. Well, there's not a single pack besides my own that has an omega. It is very common. Anywhere but here. You will see and hear many things and you will think them strange. But remember, this is one of the most liberal minded, most inclusive, strangest septs that I've ever heard of. Things are very different elsewhere.
Yeah, I've heard that actually, specifically regarding the multiple tribes that inhabit the sept. It seems to be quite unique.
She nods along. Most septs favor one or two tribes, maybe welcome a second or third. But even then, it is strange to have as many as four tribes truly coexisting together.
Do you have any idea as to why? Why is that something that this sept embraces where others clearly do not?
And she'll gesture vaguely off in the direction of the cardboard palace, wherever that happens to be, where the Bonars remain. Mother Larissa has made her intentions very clear in her sept. She welcomes all. I think it is a very Bonar thing, not to judge.
Hmm. I see.
She makes a point of being hospitable to all who would come here. She welcomes them into her home, and she expects them to get along. It
I
is a
would like.
very bold stance to take, but I can't think of a one who would challenge Mother Larissa on it. She is a very established, very capable guru, known as a legend. And so if this is what she wishes, this is the way it shall be.
Has that ever caused problems?
No, of course. Even in septs with only two or three tribes, there are still conflicts. With so many here, there have certainly been conflicts. Points where the cultures simply don't mesh. I imagine Thanksgiving is quite an event on the sept, among others.
Why? I mean, if any American holiday should be a point of welcoming everybody, it should be Thanksgiving, right?
She grins and sets back, and kind of scratches idly at the one side of her lips, like at the end of the scar. You would think that until you consider that there are Tenna and Wendigo that we share the sept with, and it celebrates a time when their people were invaded, pushed out of their homes, and put under someone's thumb.
Right. Yeah, that mother has told me some things about Uktena, not so much about Wendigo. I'm trying to learn about all the tribes, so
You are a
yeah.
Galliard, it suits. You should learn as much as you can. To
Yeah,
understand the past is to understand the actions that people will take in the future.
yeah, I guess that's true.
It means that when you tell the tales, when you regale what you've seen, you understand the why, even if it wasn't presented at the time.
Hmm. So on that aspect, I mean, I've spoken to Saoirse and Aidan about the Fianna, but you're a theurge. You have a different point of view again. Could you tell me something about the Fianna?
Anything.
So, what makes a theurge of the Fianna so um, special?
Again, Idly scratching under her chin, thinking, musing. Much in the way of some other tribes. Some who have a heritage that goes far, far, far back. The ages of my tribe. We practice ways that to humankind are as good as long lost, that are as good as gone. And because they are so old and so primal, they may seem brutal, they may seem too harsh, too free, too willing almost. But we revel in everything we do. We live each moment in the moment and cherish it because we may not get another. When I call out to the spirits, I do so the way that many, many before me have done. And I don't second guess, and I don't hesitate. I act freely, I act willingly, I act passionately on what I think will do what must be done. If it means offering burnt sacrifice, so be it. If it means dancing in nothing but paint on my skin, so be it. It means taking mushrooms and riding the sensations that result, so be it. But we do not hesitate, and we do not do things halfway. I throw myself body and soul into my job, into my duties, and I love them. There's no other auspice that would have suited me so well, Luna knows.
Thank you.
And she
Oh,
kind of gestures up. I cherish the bond that I have with my brood, and the acceptance it earns me.
right, your totem is stag, right?
It is.
Do you know why you have such a special connection to it?
And she kind of licks her lips thoughtfully, and I'll let you pee an ear. Do it.
I will do it.
I will, in fact, invite you to pee an ear. Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. I don't have a big dice pool for that, but
That's okay, you don't need one.
no,
See,
I
there you
don't.
go, you don't need one.
Yeah, that's 3 successes.
All things considered, especially at three successes, you might see a faltering there. Not distress or hurt. Maybe something that looks like doubt. But she does her best to make light of it or make off like it didn't happen. It's a fleeting expression. It just touches her features for a moment. But Robin manages to really pluck it out, having watched how she's moving, how she's holding herself, how she's generally schooling herself into a very welcoming smile, and trying her best to be obliging. She sees it, catch there, at the corner of her lips, at the corner of her eyes. I couldn't say. I am told that my mother was devout to stag, but there's no knowing the intentions of spirits, especially tribal totems. One could ask, one could guess, but there's no guarantee of an answer.
Okay, I'm gonna make another roll there. I think it might laugh about this. I'm not sure. I'm gonna use, I don't know, would that be manipulation or intelligence, psychology?
Oh, psychology, you say?
Psychology student
What
here.
are you trying to do?
What she's trying to do is like asking questions, like basically what she wants to ask, like if it's bothering her. Like she's trying to lure out a little bit more of like 10 points feelings.
Then I would say manipulation.
I thought so too. Oh, watch the botch happen, probably. Huh? No.
Not at all. In fact,
Wow.
4 successes.
Wow. Okay. Like I've had a run in with like every high thing, everything that I'm supposed to be good at that I would botch that roll. So I was like, I'm probably gonna botch this. But yeah. So Robin leans somewhat forward and is actually kind of like mimicking the way that 10 point is sitting right now. So if she like has her legs crossed, then Robin will do so, because that's the thing that happens during
Mm-hmm.
conversation, that you take people's posture when you're truly interested. Um, so her nonverbal communication kind of shows a deeper interest, as she sort of leans forward a little bit and just asks, "Is that something that bothers you, that you do not know?"
And between the 4 successes and yeah, the carefully composed response,
I should have actually rolled two dice
she,
more, because pure breed.
you know what? I
That's
will not make you
fucking
risk those successes. I will not make you risk
okay.
them. Uh, so especially with the slight shifts and whatnot, and the thoughtless kind of synergy, and the fact that, let's face it, 10 point is generally more easygoing and more open with the Cubs than anyone else on Sept. She kind of glances over, and having assessed that this is very open, as far as she can tell, very open, honest interest, kind of answers in a way she might not have expected and says, "Of course it does.
I
You have
see.
to understand that to Fiona, to our tribe, family is everything, and I do not have one, and I know nothing of them."
Hmm.
And this time she's not as quick to fudge her features and her expression. She doesn't school it as much. So there's a touch of it there, because yes, it very much bothers 10 point not knowing. And there may or may not have been some event not too far back that has brought it to the forefront of her mind.
Robin will nod. Says, "And you have never considered going back, or is that also an issue in itself?"
I've gone home, but the answers were not forthcoming. And I will, in fact, roll dun 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 some of that sweet, sweet subterfuge at a higher difficulty because fuck my deformity.
I will key any of that.
Woohoo! No, she manages to lock down on how much, like the depth of the hurt there. Thankfully,
Hmm. So, what do you know of your parents? Like, if at any point I'm asking too much, please let me know. I do not mean to hurt your feelings or make you feel uncomfortable.
no, it's important to understand that being Metis is different. In light of the things that have happened lately, it's perhaps more important that people understand. I do not know my mother's name. I do not know who my father was. I have been told both are dead. I know the graveyard in which she lays, but not which stone is hers. I know that she is a Theurge, or was, and I know that she was accomplished enough that my taking her from the nation was no small crime.
And Is that how you feel about it? That you took her from the nation?
Every Metis is born having committed murder. Fiona Metis are usually born committing it twice. We don't abide the father to live either.
But I've heard a little bit about Metis and their parents. Do you consider yourself actively guilty of their deaths? And Robin's going to peony the hell out of this, I can tell you that much.
I'll actually, I'm gonna make you roll your psychology again to see if you can fish the answer out, and I will just give you the answer and not make you roll P&E.
I think that's basically because that would still be a perception, unless you would give me like a manipulation or an intelligence or something like that. So it would
I'll
be.
say your manip pull wasn't bad, so do the manip psychology again to see if you can pull the answer out of her.
Then let me this time
Pull an
actually
honest
add
one out of
those
her. Yeah,
extra
don't forget
dice.
your other 2 dice. Oh my god, Saskia, what the fuck? Do you have a specialty?
Not in manipulation. I would have had one in charisma, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh god, it's a good thing I haven't got persuasion active, or that would be bad.
That would be 8 successes beyond persuasion active,
Yeah.
which would be just mean, really.
Yeah, no,
Insult to
totally.
injury. And so, yeah, perhaps normally she wouldn't be so frank about it, but something about the way that Robin is asking and the fact that it seems very open and innocent how she's asking, 10 Point feels compelled to be very, very blunt, very honest. Of course I do. I have killed to live, and I carry their sin with me. The litany is what it is, and I earnestly believe that 2 knowing Guru, 2 understanding Guru, who break the litany in such a way must be driven to do so, must be tempted to do so. The worm can do many things, not just corrupt, it also tempts. And I carry some measure of that sin. I carry the result of that touch onto perfectly capable knowing Guru. I was taught for many, many years, Anrai, that the best that I could hope to do is to lose my life in such a way that I allowed another Guru to live and pay back my initial crime. I have been taught better. I've been taught that I can do more. And I thank Mariah for the influence that he has had on me in opening my mind to this, but in the end, I am still battling with that lingering sin, with that lingering temptation.
Those
I've
lingering
seen
feelings
very
of guilt.
clearly that I am more open to the worm, that I hear it more clearly, that I feel its presence more clearly. There's a reason that Metis are so inherently capable of sensing the worm.
I understand your feelings in all this, but I can't help but wonder how you are actively guilty of murder. You've not, you as a person, as far as I can see, have not deliberately murdered your parents. I understand that you have a sense of guilt about it, but I can even I think I can even understand that you feel like you are the reason that they are dead. Dead, sorry. Blah. But actively guilty of that crime?
Andre, if you found in your first change, as you lost yourself to the frenzy, that you had, we know that Vivian is alive, but if you found that you had killed her in a moment where you had no control, no understanding, but it was still your claws that did it, would you not feel that you were guilty of murder?
Robin will kind of lean back a little, thinking about this.
It does not have to be fair to be true.
Mm, I would feel guilty, indeed, like you do. And I would feel terrible about it. But I would not have found myself guilty of actively murdering someone, as that requires a sort of planning and a sort of clarity of mind that at that time I did not have. So would I feel guilty? Would I feel responsible for her death? Most likely.
Then whatever phrasing suits you best.
Well, there's a big difference between, like I said, being responsible for someone's death or actively searching it. I was trying to see how you felt about that.
The blind desire to live is not the same as an intentional murder, no. But in the end, I have done what I have done. I am responsible for it. Whether it was planned or not, I am still responsible. So if by murder you mean conscious decision, then no.
Right. If you would get a chance to speak with your parents, would you take it?
And what?
I've heard about ancestral homelands. I presume that your parents aren't there then.
I couldn't know. I cannot summon them without knowing their names.
Hmm.
And in light of how many fucking successes you've gotten in the past here, I have made an effort to learn them. The spirits did not see fit to answer my questions. And she says this gesturing with an open hand. And there is, she's got so many fucking gruesome scars that it's almost easy to miss. If you want, you can even roll perception alertness to make it fair. But in the end, she's got,
I'll
out of
make
all of her scars, she has a pinprick of a little cut on the tip of one of her fingers.
Let me roll them 5 dice for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's enough. So as she gestures, probably unconsciously with the hand that she's inflicted it on. So while normally she gestures right-handed, in this case she gestures with her left. And she'll catch sight of, like, it's a very small pale mark, but it's again a silver inflicted injury, even if it's long healed and negligible.
So yeah, she'll notice that pinprick and she'll like gesture towards it. Is that the result of it?
The rite of heritage requires that blood be drawn, only a small amount. but drawn with silver. I suppose that back home, the ancestors saw me unfit, having my answer. I am going to roll some more Manip sub because a whole 4 dice, diff 7,
I'll try and peony it.
2 whole successes.
Defender wins.
Again, she doesn't. Again, it's there is a lot of sorrow and heartbreak attached to it, but she manages to keep those just shoved down enough not to hit the surface and hit her face.
I do not wish to pry in your personal matters, but I would like to help if I can. Would you allow me to research this?
I think it would be hard without even a name to start with.
I have a name. I have yours.
I will not stop you. As much as I should accept that the answer I was given is the answer I was given, I want to know. Perhaps if I accomplish greater things, the ancestors will answer the next time I ask.
Perhaps I do not claim to know enough about ancestors, and especially not Lithiana ancestors, to know if they would accept you and your deeds or not. But, well, there are many ways to the same goal, and perhaps I can assist you. After all, everyone here has done a lot for me. So I should try and do something in return.
As much as I would like to say, don't bother yourself, I'd still be very eager to hear, should you find answers. I have a name that's been given to me now. My rag calls me family, and has named me Lynch. But knowing is still important. Heritage is still important. And while it will always sting to be the end of a line, being able to trace it back would mean a great deal.
Mm-hmm. Have you always been called 10 Points? Or was there a name before?
She hesitates markedly.
You said that where we come from is important, and I think knowing where you started and by which name you started might help in finding what came before your name.
Then promise me, if I give you this name, you'll use it for no other purpose and tell it to no other. It is one of the very few things that are mine.
I will promise you. I will never tell anyone else of your name.
While the Sept has called me 10 Point, has always called me 10 Point. At least one was kind enough to tell me that my mother named me Moira.
Robin will nod and she won't say anything at all because, yeah, she promised. So she just gives a nod and then holds out her hand.
And she'll pitch out her own as well.
No one else on the steps or any other guru that is out there alive that does not know it already will know your name. I promise, not from my lips.
It means a great deal to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for sharing. It's important to learn, but this was maybe a little bit more than learning, and I thank you for telling me your story.
And she nods and kind of muses back over how the hell did that happen, but doesn't doesn't think too much on it or let it distract her from the conversation at hand. Is there any other subject on which you had questions? All right.
I have many, um, but maybe for now this is all. I would like to learn more about rituals and rites, things like that. Sergio just explained to me a little bit about what a galliard is supposed to do, but I there must be more, and there must be more things that I should be aware of, I think.
There are. I will start you with this, as I have many of the cups before you. I want you each day, at least once, to take time, stand out in a field, stand under an open sky, put your hand on a tree. Do whatever will remind you that you are grounded in Gaia. Take a moment to let yourself go and think of her and to appreciate her. Breathe 13 times and find some peace in it. Make it a meditation. Do this for several days and see if it does not give you some natural sense of understanding. It is a very easy stepping stone.
I shall. Thank you for this tip.
And she nods, and in light of how much she's given up, she will, for once, be the first to begin kind of unfolding herself, prepping to rise.
Yeah. Uh, Robin is also like this is a good cue to leave. She'll rise up and I will probably like fold the blankets. Although there's no way that she's probably gonna get it up that rock, but
That's okay. That's what 10 points there for. She's tall.
yeah.
And so, yeah, as the blanket's handed over, she'll offer a bob of her head. Go with greater understanding, Unrai. You will have many, many questions to ask to have the footnotes you need to start telling your tales. But if you pay such attention to detail as this, I think you'll do well.
Thank you for your lessons and your wisdom, Tenmonteraya. And I do hope that we will meet soon. Mm. Yeah, Robin will kind of tip her chin up again, show throat, and we'll do the proper thing and take a couple of steps backwards even before turning around and leaving in the direction of the cup's den.
10 point will remain just kind of idly holding the blanket, at least for several moments, until she's gotten turned about and properly on her way. And then Robin can probably faintly hear the distinct sound of 10 point just scampering right up on top of the rock, where she will lay the blanket out again and take her usual place.
And then with that, I think we shall end this scene. Thank you, player, for playing, and thank you, watchers, for watching. This was another scene of Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York.